Everyone who has ever given you financial advice has probably told you some version of the same thing. Leave your money in your IRA for as long as you possibly can. Let it grow tax-deferred. Don't touch it until you have to. It sounds right. It sounds conservative. It sounds like exactly the kind of patient, disciplined thinking that built your savings in the first place. And for a meaningful number of people between the ages of 60 and 72, it is one of the most expensive pieces of advice they will ever follow. Thomas is 63 years old. He lives in Denver, Colorado. And for 31 years, he worked as a certified public accountant. He understood tax law the way a surgeon understands anatomy. Not theoretically, but practically in his hands, every single day. He retired 18 months ago with a traditional IRA worth $580,000, a modest Social Security benefit waiting for him at 67, and the quiet confidence of a man who genuinely knew more about money than almost anyone he had ever met. He had never done a Roth conversion. He had never felt he needed to. The money was growing. The tax was deferred. Why would you voluntarily pay tax on something you didn't have to pay tax on yet? Then he sat down with a fee-only financial advisor for the first time since retiring. Something he had put off, honestly, because he felt he had it handled. And she asked him a question that stopped him cold. She said, "Thomas, do you know what your required minimum distribution is going to be at 73? He knew what an RMD was. He had explained it to clients hundreds of times, but he had never run the number for himself. And when she ran it for him, sitting across that desk on a Tuesday afternoon, Thomas said something he had not said in a very long time. He said, "I didn't realize it would be that much." Here is what Thomas didn't realize. And here is what I want to make sure you understand before we go any further. The years between when you stop working and when the IRS forces you to start withdrawing from your traditional retirement accounts are not a quiet waiting room. They are, for most people, the lowest income years of their entire adult life. And that makes them the single most valuable tax window in your entire retirement. A window that, once it closes, never opens again. Your tax bill in retirement can be permanently lower, not by earning less, not by investing differently, but simply by moving money at the right time. That move is called a Roth conversion. You take a portion of your traditional IRA, pay ordinary income tax on it now at your current rate, and move it into a Roth IRA where it grows tax-free forever, with no required withdrawals for the rest of your life. The reason timing matters so much is this. Most people's taxable income is lowest in the years right after they retire, and before their required minimum distributions begin. No salary coming in. Social Security possibly not yet claimed. Your bracket is lower than it has been since your 20s. And every dollar you convert at a 12% tax rate instead of a 22% tax rate is money that stays in your pocket and in your family's pocket permanently. Here is something to do before you go to bed tonight. Write down your estimated taxable income for this year. Just your income, before any conversion. That number tells you exactly how much room you have inside your current tax bracket before you move into the next one. That gap is your conversion budget. Now, for Thomas's second surprise, the one that genuinely shook him. At 73, the IRS stops giving you a choice about when to take money from your traditional IRA. They send you a minimum withdrawal amount, calculated by a formula using your account balance and your life expectancy every single year for the rest of your life. That is called a required minimum distribution, or RMD. You do not choose the amount. You do not choose the timing. The formula chooses for you. Thomas had $580,000 in his traditional IRA at the time of that meeting. His advisor showed him what the RMD formula produces at age 73, using the IRS Uniform Lifetime Table. His first required withdrawal, the minimum, the floor, would be roughly $22,000. Not because he needed it, not because he wanted it, Because the IRS requires it. And here's the part that most people have never thought through. That $22,000 is added directly to your taxable income for the year. If you are also receiving Social Security, that additional income can push more of your Social Security benefit into the taxable category. If your combined income crosses certain thresholds, your Medicare premiums increase automatically the following year, based on what the IRS sees on your return 2 years prior. Thomas's IRA was not going to stay at $580,000. If it continued to grow at a reasonable rate over the next 10 years, his RMD at 73 would be significantly larger. The deferral he had been counting on as a strategy was quietly building a mandatory tax event he had no control over. Your move here is specific. Go to irs.gov and search for the RMD worksheets. Find the Uniform Lifetime Table. Look at what your first RMD would be at 73 based on your current balance. Write that number down. That is the income the IRS will force you to take, whether you need it or not. The third issue Thomas's advisor walked him through is the one that I think most financial content gets completely wrong, because it treats these problems separately, when in reality, they hit you all at once, in sequence, like a chain reaction. Your required minimum distribution at 73 pushes your taxable income up. That higher income causes a larger portion of your Social Security benefit to become taxable. Up to 85% of your benefit can be subject to federal income tax, depending on your combined income. And if your combined income crosses the Medicare threshold, which in 2024 was $103,000 for a single filer, $206,000 for a married couple, your Medicare Part B premiums increase, not gradually, in jumps. $1 over that threshold adds roughly $840 per year per person to your Medicare bill. For a couple, that is $1,680 annually, from a single dollar of extra income. The IRS calls this the income-related monthly adjustment amount. Most people call it the IRMAA cliff, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You go over the edge, and the drop is immediate. Pull out last year's tax return. Look at line 6B, the taxable portion of your Social Security. If that number is already above zero, the chain reaction has begun. If it is more than 50% of your total benefit, the RMD years will push it higher. You need to know this now, not at 73, which brings us to the fourth point, and the one that gives you something concrete to do about all of this. The question people ask most often is, should I convert everything? And the answer is almost always no. That is not the right question. The right question is, how much can I convert this year while staying inside my current tax bracket? In 2024, for a married couple filing jointly, the top of the 12% federal bracket is roughly $94,000 in taxable income. If your combined income this year is $60,000, you have approximately $34,000 of room before you cross into 22% territory. That $34,000 is your conversion window for this year. Converting at 12% instead of 22% saves you 10 cents on every dollar. On a $30,000 conversion, that is $3,000 that stays in your Roth instead of going to the IRS. Done across 5 or 6 years, it is $15,000 to $20,000 in permanently avoided tax, money growing tax-free, available to you or to your children without further tax consequence. Thomas had been in the 12% bracket for 18 months. He had converted nothing. The window had been open the entire time. This is the one calculation worth paying a CPA or fee-only advisor for, not to decide whether to convert, but to model the exact amount that fits your income, your bracket, and your situation before December 31st. Because conversion decisions are made by tax year, and the window you are in right now may not be the window you are in next January. Now, let me introduce you to someone Thomas knows very well. Carol is 60 years old. She lives in Portland, Oregon, and until 14 months ago, she worked as a registered nurse. She and Thomas grew up in the same house, attended the same schools, and built their savings the same way across most of their adult lives. Same habits, same IRA contributions, same general approach. The difference is one conversation Carol had 5 years ago with a financial planner who asked her the same question Thomas's advisor eventually asked him. Have you thought about what happens when your RMDs begin? Carol had not, but she listened. And beginning at 55, she converted $40,000 per year from her traditional IRA into a Roth every year for 5 consecutive years. She paid the taxes as she went, at a rate she controlled, in years when her income was still manageable. By the time Carol turns 73, her traditional IRA balance will be meaningfully smaller. Her first required minimum distribution will be smaller. The portion of her Social Security that gets taxed will be smaller. Her Medicare premiums will almost certainly be lower. And her Roth IRA, the account she paid taxes on already, at rates she chose, will have been growing tax-free for more than a decade. Thomas and Carol started in the same place, same family, same discipline, same savings. The difference between them is 5 years of decisions Carol made quietly, without drama, without complexity, without any financial genius, while the window was still open. If there is one thing I want you to carry from this video, it is this. The years between when you stop working and when the IRS begins requiring withdrawals are not a waiting room. They are not a neutral period. They are the most tax-efficient years of your entire retirement. When your income is lowest, your bracket is lowest, and your control over your own tax bill is highest. Every year you spend in that window without at least evaluating a conversion is a year you cannot get back. You don't have to convert everything. You don't have to make a dramatic move. You just have to look at your numbers, understand where you sit in the bracket, and make a deliberate decision, rather than letting the default play out and discovering at 73 that the IRS has been making the decision for you all along. The window doesn't stay open forever. For some of you watching this, it is open right now.